Controllers. You love them, hate them, some people smash them, which, by the way, you definitely shouldn't do. Most games like Super Smash Bros. Melee or CSGO have a pretty solid consensus when it comes to the controller choice at a competitive level. But Mario Kart Wii supports 4 different controllers, and to most beginners, this leads to the logical question, what's the best controller for MKwii? Well, first, let's learn what we're dealing with. The first controller, nicknamed Wheel, is a sideways Wii remote. Due to the lack of buttons and sticks, turning and tricking are mapped out to motion controls, which means, in the beginning, inputs tend to be slow, imprecise, and inconsistent. Because of this, it takes so much more to get good with a wheel. Instead of just pressing a button on a normal gamepad, you also have to learn to press the button, quote-unquote, properly, if that makes any sense. The second controller, more accurately an attachment, is the Nunchuck. Popular among weekend afternoon players for its low price. Basically every Wii came with one. And the high skill level you could attain, Nunchuck solves the one problem that the wheel has. It maps turn controls to the Nunchuck's analog stick. Now tricks are still motion based, but in turn, Nintendo gave controllers that use motion controls a bigger window to input certain techniques, which means frame perfect tricks, like chain wheelies, become 3-frame tricks. Not a bad trade-off. By the way, this also applies to the wheel, as the wheel is a motion-based controller.
Oh yeah, and for those of you who are curious how to do directional tricks with the Wii Remote or a Wii Wheel, it's done by wiggling the control stick in a particular direction. So this is up. You can see King Boo does that kind of flip animation. For a down trick, King Boo kind of shrinks. And for the left, he doesn't do a full spin, but kind of just sticks his tongue out like that. His right trick, King Boo does a full flip. You can see all 4 tricks are able to be controlled by flicking your remote, either up, down, left, or right. So hopefully that helps.
The third controller is the CC, or CCP. Short for the Classic Controller and Classic Controller Pro, this attachment is way closer to a normal gamepad. Players like TWD98 and Sword of Seals use this option, as it's arguably the most consistent controller in the eyes of most players. By the way, if you're curious what the difference is between a CC and a CCP, a CC has no handles. The CCP does. But the trade-off is the CC has analog triggers, and the CCP has bumpers instead. So for Mario Kart Wii, they're basically the same thing. The final controller is the GameCube controller. Nicknamed GCN, and notable for its legendary timeline of Melee players that came before it, the GCN, as you would expect, is a solid controller for MKwii, just like the CCP. But there's a pretty big problem with GCN and CCP. You see, the tricks are mapped to the D-pad. So watch my thumb, and D-pad, and thumb, and D-pad. Do you see the problem here? You can't input a trick/wheelie at the same time you turn. So players began to play claw. On CCP, instead of having your thumb go back and forth from the stick to the D-pad, have your thumb rest on the analog stick at all times. Then place your pointer finger on the D-pad and move your middle finger over to where your pointer finger would be, on top of the triggers. This grip gives you access to everything you would need for MKwii and is generally considered the best way to play. Now for the GCN players, clawing is way harder, as you need to control your vehicle with your pointer finger instead of what logically would be your thumb. So instead of clawing, some people do a mixed grip. They go between normal grip and claw depending on where they are in the track. Now I personally found that I like clawing on GCN, but I replaced my thumbstick to a Nunchuck's thumbstick, which is much taller than stock. So I began to develop a claw technique that wraps my finger around the thumbstick instead of on top of it. I have seen some players use this in a mixed grip, but I'm not sure if there's an official name for it. So in conclusion, what is the best controller? Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest, GCN, CCP, and Nunchuck are all about the same. I would say for most people, use the Nunchuck that came with your Wii. And if for some odd reason you don't already have a Nunchuck, you could get a GCN if you play Smash, or you could use a CCP if you want to play some Virtual Console titles. Sure, you could talk theoreticals like the CCP is arguably the best controller, The Nunchuck has advantages for chain wheelies and things of that nature. But we've seen BKTs come from Nunchuck players, CCP players, and GCN players. As long as you don't play wheel, you're good to go. Now, having said all that, there's only one real exception that I would recommend anyone to play wheel, and that's the case if you've already been playing Mario Kart Wii for 10 years, you've just been playing it with a wheel, so you already know how to use the controller to its full extent. And in that case, you do you. I mean, you wheelers know who you are. I hope you found this video helpful. Maybe you even liked it. If so, you know what to do. And, as always, happy racing.